The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Go Cowboys! This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw Dating, preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star.
Hey everyone, it's Jane Slater back in the hosting seat. I don't know if we've set the table for you guys a little bit, but we are sort of doing a rotating chair as I alluded to some of the family stuff that I'm dealing with. So thank you girls for stepping up. I love that we've got so many awesome women that are a part of this show now that can step in here and that we've got such a loyal following already. So we appreciate you for that. Loyal fans of Dak Prescott. I think we've all been excited to see him make his return. Not as optimistic as the 4-week window that Jerry would have had us to have believed. Initially, it was 6 weeks, and it seems like everything is trending in the right direction. I was so bullish about it that on NFL Network, I said I'd be surprised if he's not dressing out and under center on Sunday. Today, the news from Mike McCarthy, though, that gives us that confidence is the fact that he has been medically cleared for that fracture in his right thumb. That is good news. And I got to tell you, Haley, you were in the locker room listening to rookie Jake Ferguson, and I even pulled Simi Fioco and Noah Brown off to the side and asked them about the zip on the ball. They said it's there. And I loved the soundbite from Jake Ferguson. He said, I had a thumb injury, and I couldn't even grip a cup. So that's what's so remarkable about that's what's so remarkable about what Dak Prescott's been able to do just 6 weeks now removed after jamming that hand into Shaq Barrett's helmet, not once, but twice in week one. What are you most excited to see from him? Although we didn't get to see a lot of this today, ladies, because they had a walkthrough, but it was Mike McCarthy who told us that they went through a mock practice, about a 70-play mock game, not mock practice, mock game. And then he would throw about 40 to 50 balls to his perimeter players and then expect to be a full participant on Thursday. What's the one thing that you need to see in practice on Thursday?
From him? Mm-hmm. Wait. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. I was turning up the volume. I can't hear you guys.
No, with Congo. My bad. From him, I guess I just want to see him get in the flow of things, see how comfortable he looks back there. It looked like he looked fine under center, doing some of the things before the game. So I don't know. If he's comfortable, I'm comfortable. I just want to see how he flows back into the offense at this point.
Yeah, I'm definitely just interested to see how he impacts the other players around him. I know with Cooper Rush, the narrative has been, how consistent Cooper was, but I think consistency can get a little dull at times. And the thing that stood out about this offense last year was their ability to put points on the board, their ability to be creative in that way. So less about, what I'm excited about Dak to do, more so what he's going to allow for the players around him to do.
Yeah, and we talked about this yesterday. I'm excited to see that foundation finally built for what this Cowboys offense is going to be, their starting point with their starting quarterback coming in, and then from there growing to see what they can be. I'm also excited to see where he is mentally after being on the sidelines and talking about seeing this game from a different perspective again. I'm excited to see how he hones that in, how he channels that when he's playing, and expect all good things from QB1.
Well, listen, I don't think anyone in that locker room wanted Cooper Rush to have the game that he did against the Eagles. And to his credit, to come back in the second half the way that he did, I thought was a strong performance, not only from him, but, from this offense as a whole. But it certainly helps Dak coming back, right? Because if Cooper Rush had gone on the road against that Eagles team, who we have now seen as a bona fide threat in the NFC East, I think it would have made this thing a little bit more delicate as he came back. In other words, a very small margin of error afforded to him. I respect that Mike McCarthy, too. Last week there was a little bit of playing coy, a little bit of gamesmanship. We only saw him throwing with the left hand, and the parts of practice that he was throwing we didn't get to see. And then he shows up as questionable on the practice report. I get that. But that's why I think Thursday is going to be so meaningful for all of us because, again, listening to these guys told me if he wanted to play last week, and a lot of them thought that he could, that he would have been out there on Sunday. So I think this was an abundance of caution, but you're also doing it against a team whose only win this season comes the Washington Commanders in week 2. We're talking about a 1-4 Detroit Lions team, which we'll get into after our first break. And it's a game at home. And Dak plays really, really well at home. Offensively, though, how different do you think this offense is from week 1? Starting with me, I'll just say they didn't have two tight ends that they could rely on. I mean, Jake Ferguson and Peyton Hendershot are doing some special stuff out there. And Mike McCarthy has always wanted to employ the two tight end set. And I feel like you now have the guys do that. Now, we were talking about this before the show. What's up with Dalton Schultz? We didn't get an update today. So that's my fault and the beat for not asking. I sent out a text, so hopefully I'll have some sort of update for you. But just seeing the running game get going. You know, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Dak went on record and say the game has slowed down for him a little bit. They need to simplify things, which is interesting because you're hearing Aaron Rodgers say that now also in Green Bay. But I think sometimes the play calling was a little too cute. And I think Dak was trying to do too much. But when he has those gaudy numbers, they don't translate into wins. Mm-hmm. So how do you anticipate this offense rolling with Dak back under center, Aisha?
So, I mean, we heard from Kellen Moore the other day and also from Mike McCarthy talking about, you know, they don't expect any changes to what they do offensively. And honestly, if you look at the games and look at them in detail, there are so many opportunities there for these receivers. They're scheming these guys open. So I guess I'll piggyback off of what Haley said earlier is that I think there's going to be more opportunity for these players to make plays that maybe were there, you know, this first couple weeks but haven't been there. And then also, too, I mentioned it yesterday, I think it's important that he's coming back to an offensive line that is starting to communicate better, starting to gel better. Guys have been in their spots for a while. We're still trying to see what's going to happen at, left guard or whatever with Jason Peters. But for now, McGovern has come back in and he's settled in well. So that was brought up. Like, I think they communicated really well last week despite all of the craziness. And I just think that's going to be important for him to come in, settle in, and for this run game to be going.
Yeah, I think that something that I've kind of attached myself to is this idea of mojo that everybody talks about. Jerry talked about the mojo with Cooper Rush and keeping him in versus playing Dak too early. To me, I think the mojo is more of, what's going to help this offense play better and look better. And I think statistically it's Dak Prescott, and it's no shade to Cooper Rush. I think he did what he did, and that's fine. It helped the Cowboys be in a better position. But when you talk about Dak and the things that he's able to do, just some reading I did earlier, the last time they played the Lions, he had a single game high of 444 yards back in 2019. He's never lost to Detroit as a starter. So it kind of, to me, this sets the tone for a game for him that's really going to, number one, put everybody back on notice. Like, I heard what y'all were saying about me. Here I am. Yeah. But also, I think when you put up those kind of numbers, when you have that in your future, I thought that was someone's phone.
Hey, Jazz.
But, when you have that, again, it just makes everyone around you play better. You're more comfortable with this guy who did most of the reps during training camp with you. It's what you're comfortable with. So I think that Dak, that while the offense maybe doesn't change, the play calling maybe doesn't change, but maybe the energy around and the players around kind of get that spark back. And you heard it with guys today. Leighton Vander Esch talked about what an asset it is to have Dak Prescott on your sideline, let alone behind center. So I just think it's going to bring a lot of energy, a lot of excitement, especially given the work that Cooper Rush has done over the last couple of weeks.
And you know what that reminds me of is Dak's first game back after the ankle injury. The Bucs game last season, the camaraderie was just huge. I mean, it wasn't even a home game, and it was, I remember I was at the watch party at AT&T Stadium. There were people crying when Dak came out on the field on the screen. I mean, but I can't even imagine his return at a home game. So again, it's not as serious of an injury as his ankle was, but the fact that he's been out, the fan base has had time to gain their appreciation back for Dak Prescott is going to lead to a very good home field advantage, I think, for Dak. And not only that, but to Aisha's point earlier, you look at the wide receiver group and how different it is from the last time Dak played. During the Bucs game, the receivers he had, Noah Brown, Dalton Schultz, CeeDee Lamb, Dennis Houston, Tony Pollard, Semi Fioco, and of course Zeke acted as a receiver there for a little bit during that game. Last week, you have a much different receiver core here. You have CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson, Peyton Hendershot, Michael Gallup, Noah Brown, Sean McEwen, Tony Pollard, Zeke Elliott, and Kevontae Turpin. So I think, again, it goes back to you get to see an established offense, and you get to see an O-line that has had weeks to gel and get those rookie mistakes out, if you will, to give Dak that protection, to get that play action going, to give him the time to make the decisions and to get that ball zipped out, and, of course, give him the protection so that way no more injuries happen.
Well, and it looks like James Washington is getting closer and closer, but I got to tell you, I don't know what to expect from him. It's not like he had a big year with the Steelers. and we didn't see much in training camp.
Yeah.
So while I think it gives you options on offense, I don't know if I'm sitting here going, he's going to be a difference maker. I keep wanting to see Kevontae Turpin utilized a little bit more in the middle of the field. Why are we not seeing that?
I have no idea why that's not happening.
He's got speed.
From us. Like, I mean, I think the rest of the community feels that way because, I mean, teams wish they had a guy to take the top off like he can. I wonder, like I said, this is something we don't consider. He is, new to the NFL. He is technically a rookie in the NFL. So maybe this gentleman is still learning, the wide receiver position because he is a special. He said it multiple times, like, I'm a specialist, so I'm wondering if maybe that has anything to do with it. But
he's also said multiple times he wants to be seen as a wide receiver. And if you talk to folks at TCU, he's very capable of it.
Yeah, and there's instances where he's on film on like as a receiver option. And maybe you see that, like we just talked about. Maybe we see him get those opportunities now that Dak is under center, and then maybe they try to go down the field more. Yeah. But yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
No, I thought you were done. I'm sorry. My mic's off.
Oh, Haley's
there it is. Sorry, my
go.
mic was off. I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were done.
Okay.
I was just going to say, going off of those same lines, a couple weeks ago, I think Mike was asked about that. Why are we not utilizing Kevontae Turpin? Because you see the difference maker he is on special teams. Maybe you integrate that into the offense, and that changes, your offensive outlook. And Mike just kind of said, look, like we're doing the best we can with what we've got. And right now what we've got is Cooper Rush. And he even talked about the plays were designed to keep Cooper protected. I think that's why he went so long without throwing an interception, without being sacked as often maybe as he was as the stretch went on. So again, I think bringing Dak back allows you to maybe play with something a little bit more creatively like that, because Dak's a guy that can hit those balls. So if Kevontae is going to make those quick routes and get down the field, Dak's going to be a guy who can see that, laser in on that, and make the pass.
Well,
I
speculation.
also love that you make my segues so easy because you're talking about creativity here. And I know it's two different situations, but you had Jason Peters and Tyler Smith. So you had that veteran guy and the rookie guy, right? So when you look at bringing James Washington in, I wonder if when you can get creative, when James Washington is healthy, is you utilize him to kind of rotate and throw more defenses off. Because James Washington does bring that veteran leadership. And I really learned this last week when I was in the locker room talking to him, because Aisha and I were sitting there talking to him and Jalen Tolbert, and we were like, hey, are you ready for the Eagles game? To Jalen, he's like, yeah, because of this guy, which was James Washington right next to him, who wasn't even playing. So I think that's very special and very overlooked for James Washington, is he brings that veteran leadership to the younger guys that a lot of them are still rookies. So I think James Washington can be utilized in this offense. I'm just not sure to what extent.
Yeah, just to give some context really quick, in regards to James Washington, he told reporters today it's all in trainer Britt Brown's hands ahead of Wednesday's practice. He's the expert. So it sounds like a Dak situation where he's ready to play, but maybe he hasn't been given that green light just yet.
I don't think they're trying to rush him back yet, right? Because you've got only so many guys that you can carry on your roster on game day, and I just don't think he's special enough to them because of what we saw at camp for them to rush him necessarily back.
Yeah, and I'm not going to sit up here and act like, in camp, he definitely looked like he was, I think, more so out of shape in camp. So, and I didn't understand what they were going to do with him there. But at this point, also, too, I think something that's underrated is, like, we didn't expect for Noah Brown to just come out balling like he did, too.
Yeah.
I'm not
He's
sure.
A dog.
I'm also not sure if we expected for Michael Gallup to be back. I mean, I think people did expect for him to be back, but I don't know, 3 games into it, and then he's coming along, and Dak's going to be here. So, I don't know.
And they've got, as much as Cooper and Noah had that chemistry, the Michael Dak chemistry is outstanding.
So good. I should have said that earlier. That's the thing I'm looking forward to.
So
the most.
and when you talk about James Washington, that's really, to me, what he's a lot like Michael Gallup. Big body, physical. He has some verticality to him, but at the same time, like, they're a lot of the same guy in what they do. So I do think that there may be a conflict of interest there when you're talking about who's going to be on the field as opposed to who's going to be, on the
I
sideline.
also don't think before he got injured that there was enough to see from him to see how he could gel with this offense. Because
Just look at what he did with the Steelers.
Well, because really back then, you look at the offense as a whole, and the conversation was so much different during training camp. It was, Amari's gone, sky is falling, oh no. Nobody had faith within the wide receiver core. The conversations were so much different to where when James Washington got brought in, it was like, oh my goodness, everything is going to be okay. There's a veteran here. But really, what you've seen is obviously you've seen the younger guys step up, but I really don't know how much of his veteran presence has helped these younger guys as well. And those are conversations, we're not part of. We don't get to see. But I do know, hearing how he was talking to Jalen and the things that Jalen was saying, oh yeah, this guy right here, he's preparing me right now. I mean, that was kind of cool to see, because I feel like that was it was a real brotherhood moment. I was going to say brothership, like brother and friendship mix, but it was cool to see.
You guys actually bring up something I want to talk about after we take our first break here. How much confidence do you have in this wide receivers group right now? I mean, we talk about a scoring offense. They got it done during the stretch with Cooper Rush, but do you think that other teams are really respecting the passing game and some of the passing threats? So I want you guys to think about that for a second, and we'll talk about that on the other side of the break. This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, brought to you by Jigsaw Dating, the official dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that 6th ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, Pepsi-loving football fans, it's time we had a lesson in trash talk. And I'm not talking about that stuff that happens on the field. What I'm talking about is trash, and it's the only thing that belongs in your garbage can. No, recycling might not be as thrilling as converting a 4th and long, but next time you're thinking about throwing that Pepsi Zero Sugar bottle away, just cap it back up and pretend you're down by 6 with the recycling bin wide open. Know the difference? Make a difference. Be a team player and recycle. Visit PepsiTrashTalk.com to learn more.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
Welcome back to Girls Talk, Boys Talk, brought to you by Jigsaw Dating, the official dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. But first, Jess.
Oh, hello. All right. Hold on, guys. Yesterday was a day, Jane, if you didn't hear about my day yesterday. Well, all right, let's talk about Sounds of the Star. Live music fans, head to the Star in Frisco on Wednesday, October 26th for a brand new monthly concert series, Sounds of the Star, featuring the spectacular Southern soul band Prophets and Outlaws. The concert kicks off at 7 p.m. and is free and open to the public. For more information, please visit thestarinfrisco.com.
Thank you, Jess. All right, well, the big news of the day, of course, Dak Prescott medically cleared to be a full participant in practice. Today, just a walkthrough, so we didn't get our eyeballs on him. That'll happen on Thursday. We'll also talk to him outside the locker room as well to see how he felt. But he was anticipated to go through a 70-play mock game with the team and then throw about 40 to 50 balls to his perimeter players after practice. So I think the big thing is going to be, how does he feel after the practice? Was he sore? Last week we talked, he was a little bit sore after that initial practice, as was to be expected. But I think once we saw him on the road going through that warm-up listed as questionable, felt like all systems were go. When Dak Prescott is your starting quarterback, going back to 2021, he ranks top 5 in completion percentage, passing touchdowns to interception ratio, and a passer rating since 2021. Pretty impressive stuff from Dak Prescott when you see him on the field. That's why the fake quarterback controversy was always quite interesting to me. The Dallas offense averages almost 10 more points per game with Prescott than Rush since 2021. Before we took our first break, I did have a question for you ladies. How much confidence do you have in this wide receivers room? Now, week 1, I think it was tough to get a read on this offense, and I think where I'm going with this argument is it's TBD. I still don't know what to expect from this offense. I mean, for the most part, this Dallas defense has really kept these guys in the game, which has a lot to do with their 4-2 record. I think what you really had was a good bus driver in Cooper Rush, but we weren't seeing gaudy stats. We weren't seeing circus catches. But you also didn't have a full complement of receivers when Dak started in week 1. He was throwing into a lot of tight windows, particularly because you had CeeDee Lamb getting double and sometimes triple coverage. You didn't have a guy like Michael Gallup on the field. And we certainly didn't see these 2 tight ends and the rookies who I've just been so impressed by with Peyton Hendershot and, of course, Jake Ferguson. So, Aisha, I'll start with you. You watch a lot of the tape. Do you think teams are respecting these wide receivers? And is this a wide receiver room right now, as you see it, that demands the respect of opposing defenses?
Can I go next? I'm gathering my thoughts.
Yeah,
It's very honest. Sorry.
Yeah, I think a lot of what we've been talking about, I just think it's so challenging when your general is not on the battlefield with you. You know, like we talk all the time about, you know, your backup quarterback should be able to, in theory, perform the way your starting quarterback does. Maybe not to the same caliber, but, you know, it's the same plays, the same playbook, blah, blah, blah. But there's something to be said about not only a rapport on the field, but a relationship that you have with that person. And I think what Cooper Rush really lacked over the last couple of weeks is that relationship. And, like, don't get it twisted. These guys have the utmost respect for what Cooper does, what Cooper has done, and who he is as a person. But he's not their homeboy. You know what I mean? Like, they're not flocking to Cooper's locker, you know, dabbing him up and asking how his day's going. They're respectful. They're, you know, he's their teammate. But you just see the difference in how they are with Dak. And as a former athlete, you know, that makes a big difference. You know, you play better with the people you're closest with. And so I'm rambling at this point, but to me, we haven't seen the best out of these receivers because they haven't seen the best out of their quarterback. So when it comes to demanding respect, I don't necessarily think at the minute they're demanding that, only because they haven't been afforded those opportunities to show who they are. Like,
Great answer.
CD is still CD. He's still averaging about 10 yards after the catch, which is impressive. Michael Gallup being able to do the toe drag swag, you know, that we're so accustomed to seeing, or being the vertical threat that we're so used to seeing. Even Noah Brown. So I think as time goes on, hopefully we see glimpses of it on Sunday and can eventually build on it. But that's just kind of my take.
No, and to your point, now that I can
Now
actually
she's
answer.
ready.
Oh my God, thank you guys. But no, like I think that is something I will say that I have seen on film, is that you see 8, 9-man boxes. Like they're loading the box to stop the run because they didn't think that Cooper Rush could beat them with their arm. And that's actually what a lot of defenses did. And more importantly, you could see that they knew Cooper Rush's deficiencies. And I think that also closed the playbook and some of the things they were able to do. To Haley's point, I do think that I think that guys do play more motivated. They fight back to the ball. They're a little bit more vicious getting through blocks and stuff like that when you know your quarterback is going to be able to get that ball there. So I'll see with CeeDee Lamb particularly, I think sometimes we're a bit unfair with what he has done in his early years, given what he has dealt with coaching-wise. We talked about him having a wide receiver coach change during this time.
Adam Henry was big. He was OBJ
Absolutely.
and Jarvis Landry's coach at LSU.
I think you know, quiet is kept, and CD will tell you that he learned a lot from Amari Cooper while he was here. So I feel like this is the time for us to see what's up. Like,
well,
I
he's
think
got
this
to is the point.
And I feel that, and I feel that, but I want us like to be fair about like where he is as a player. I think there's a lot of factors that have played into this offense not playing well, and a lot of that was offensive line. Some of that was QB being injured. Some of that was coaching changes. So a lot of these guys' development is within this year, and we're trying to see what they can do with it.
Also, I think when you have your starting quarterback out for the start of the season, and this is no hate to Cooper Rush. We all have given him his flowers, and we appreciate everything he's done. I just want to say that. But I feel like these guys are going to play a little bit harder, a little bit better, a little bit faster, a little bit more aware with Dak in, and knowing especially he may be a little more fragile this week than most, coming off of an injury, as most people would be. I mean, that's the human body. But I feel like they have something else to play for. Not only did they just get off of a loss to the Eagles, which, look, everyone can sit there and say it's just another game. And in the grand scheme of things, yes, but it's the Eagles. No guy in that locker room wanted to lose any game, much less to the Eagles away. I mean, let's be honest. They have redemption to prove now, because now the conversation shifted from, this team is a major threat. Are they one of the best in the NFC? To, look at all the flags that they got thrown out. And, the conversation switched this week. And I know, if anything about this team, after hearing Dan Quinn in the press conference, after hearing Mike McCarthy, they were upset. So I think not only does this team not get the respect that they deserve most of the time, but I think they have a little bit more fight in them after a loss, and then knowing that Dak is coming back off of an injury, you're going to fight a little bit harder to protect him than you normally would. I mean, that O-line is not going to let anybody touch Dak. I can almost guarantee they are going to fight. And we'll get into the stats of the Lions and why I think that's going to be a little bit of an easier task this week for them to not get any pressure on Dak. But I also think that when you're looking at the grand scheme of things, Dak uses his legs more. Dak is a little bit more mobile, so we might not see that at first. Might see a little bit more of a conservative approach at first, but Dak eventually is going to be more mobile. And like I said, when this offense can gel with Dak in, it's going to be a much different offense than what we saw this week, even compared to like 2-3 weeks from now.
I just have to wonder if they start going back to their roots. In other words, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And when we look at that rookie season of Dak Prescott, yes, he did use his legs, got more open. We saw more of like a Jalen Hurts at times, his rookie season. But also, if they're loading the box because they don't respect his arm of Cooper's, they do respect the arm of Dak Prescott. Is that going to open up your running game a little bit more this week? And does that simplify the offense a little bit for him as he's coming back?
Absolutely, man. I'm telling you right now, you can run the ball. It changes everything for your offense. And quite honestly, if you look at last year, that was pretty much the culprit of the problem, is that the Cowboys' offensive line really struggled last year. And when the Cowboys cannot run the ball, okay, we're going to drop 6 DBs in coverage, and I'm going to see what you do with it, Dak. Yeah, but now, if you don't come stop this run, we're going to gash you every time. And not only just gash you, TP going for 52. So I think, and also too, you talked about, the tight ends. I think we've harped on it, but it is so important, this 12 personnel and what they want to do blocking wise, to open up the pass, I mean, you see it all the time with like Travis Kelce. I mean, yeah, you see it all the time. Like he'll act like he's blocking and then roll to the end zone. Those are things that actually that's what Ferg did. Like those are things that you can do when you establish the run and you actually have an offense that's willing to run downhill at people. The Cowboys told us that they wanted to get back to running the ball, and they really do have an offensive line that is cool with going downhill and mauling guys and really physically demanding that you respect what they do. So I'm excited to see. I mean, we've seen how the play action has helped out this offense as well for Cooper Rush. He was one of the best in the NFL on play action because, hey, they actually can run the ball this year. So I think that all the way around is going to pay dividends for Dak to come in and be more comfortable because he doesn't have to do it all by himself. So many times last year, he felt like I can't get it. Like, no, the run game's not working. Let me force this pass in here. Let me do this. But now,
but they would sort of move away from it. That's what would drive you nuts last year. It's like I felt like this year it's a little bit more balanced and they are sticking with the run. And, you're wearing these opposing teams down because you can't have your defense out there as long as you've had them at times. I mean, right now they've we at least saw during the 4-game win streak with Cooper Rush, they were bending, not breaking, and then we finally saw it sort of gas them because the Eagles had that 15-play drive.
I mean, but they
last Sunday.
Yeah, but they, like I talked about yesterday, they were they started at their 46. They started in Cowboys territory. I want to say 4 times. So quite honestly, I think that's difficult for any defense to get through, and I think they held them to 2 field goals during that time anyway. I think this defense.
Cooper was just trying to throw turnovers last week. It was so weird. This guy had not thrown a pick yet.
It's the pressure.
I mean, he almost had 4 in that game.
It's the pressure. It was a lot of the pressure. Also, too, there were a couple. He got pressured. He got hit on a couple of one of those picks as well. So I think. I I think that this run game and all the way around is going to help what Dak wants to do and integrating him back into this offense.
I just feel like the team that we saw against the Eagles were the team as a whole was very uncharacteristic. So you're talking Cooper Rush. We don't usually see that. No, we don't. But we also don't usually see as many, well, here we go, penalties again. But just
there it is. Everyone take your shot.
There we go. Take your shot.
No,
but my point is the lack of discipline with that. And that's what it really showed is you don't usually see that on a Dan Quinn defense. And I think it was frustration and passion. Like we talked about, you can't let those things cost you the game, essentially. But something that I did want to know is that the Lions defense actually ranks last in the NFL right now. And so I think if we're going to see the offense, the Cowboys offense play their best, this is their best opportunity to really show, hey, we can protect our quarterback. Hey, we got our bad week out last week. Let's move forward and let's play our best. I think this is the best game Dak could have come back for when you look at the statistics of the Lions.
Yeah, this is a defensively, this team just seems like they're just a little all over the place. I think I know they have new coaches in there. It looks like schematically a lot of guys are confused a lot of the time. A lot of guys are out of position. They don't particularly tackle well. They don't get pressure well. It was hard. Like, it was actually really hard to see them, especially when their offense can get points. Like, their offense, like the Lions' offense has the ability to be explosive, but this defense can't stop much of anything right now. So, I think this will be a week where the Cowboys can maybe build some confidence. You talk about Dak getting back in there, getting reintegrated into the offense. I think this is a week where if you want to build confidence in your offense moving forward, it's a good way to start.
It's a reset.
Yep, right. And the Lions also battling a lot of injuries right now.
Which we will get into after we take our second and final break. But I did want to just have one note. I don't know if you guys saw Tom Brady's just meltdown with his offensive line after missing, the walkthrough on Saturday to go to Robert Kraft's wedding. I think when you talk about the respect that this team has for Dak Prescott, Dak would never talk to his offensive line like that, or any player for that matter. And I think you respect people that respect you back. So it'll be interesting to see how that thing. I mean, look, Tom Brady's got 6 rings. He's the GOAT. I get it. But no one wants to be talked to, no matter who you are or what you've done in your career, especially millennials. I feel like millennials don't have time for that, right?
There's also so many veterans
it's
upset
me. I don't have time.
Same other comment.
Yeah, so it's like I think the Cowboys are really fortunate to get a guy like Dak Prescott, because I do think even just seeing him on the sidelines, you talk to any of these guys, the fact that he was on the sidelines, the fact that he was rehabbing around the facility, the fact that he was literally, what was it, last week I told you one of the guys said he's out, or is Michael Gallup, he's getting us water bottles.
Yeah, he's just present.
Right, but there's no job too big or too small for Dak.
He's just humble.
I think that goes, and when we saw him on the sidelines to that first game that he got injured against the Bengals, I literally sent a text to Bobby Belt, who obviously works for 105.3 The Fan, is my producer at NFL Network. I said they're going to do it for Dak, and they damn sure did. All right, like I said, we're going to take our second and final break. When we come back, we'll go through some injury updates for you, and we'll start scouting the Detroit Lions a little bit more for you. Tomorrow, we're going to have Danny Rogers, the Detroit Lions team reporter. Love having their perspective because I think it just really gives you a kind of a 360 view of the opponent heading into the week. But this is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, brought to you by Jigsaw Dating, the official dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that 6th ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, Pepsi-loving football fans, it's time we had a lesson in trash talk. And I'm not talking about that stuff that happens on the field. What I'm talking about is trash, and it's the only thing that belongs in your garbage can. Now, recycling might not be as thrilling as converting a 4th and long, but next time you're thinking about throwing that Pepsi Zero Sugar bottle away, just cap it back up and pretend you're down by 6 with the recycling bin wide open. Know the difference, make a difference. Be a team player and recycle. Visit PepsiTrashTalk.com to learn more.
With Smoothie King's original Angel Food and new Angel Food Slim without added sugar, you no longer have to choose between treating yourself and hitting your goals this summer. You don't have to choose between great taste and feeling great. Because at Smoothie King, every blend is made with whole fruits and no syrups, so you can satisfy your cravings without compromise. The only choice you will need to make is which one is best for you. Try our classic Angel Food or the new Angel Food Slim, blended without added sugar. Smoothie King, rule the day.
Welcome back to Girls Talk, Boys Talk, brought to you by Jigsaw Dating, the official dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. But first, Jess, let's get to it.
All right. Well, I have the papers this time, everyone, so we're off to a great start. Make sure to head to Rally Day. Head to AT&T Stadium on Saturday, October 22nd to experience Rally Day presented by SeatGeek. Get ready to cheer on your Dallas Cowboys with tours of AT&T Stadium, ticket giveaways, games, inflatables, and more. Visit attstadium.com/rallydays for tickets and more information. On that note, Christy Scales wanted me to mention that this is Hearing Health Awareness Month, and so at Rally Day, you can actually get hearing tests that will take place in the post-game interview room. You can look for where to get those tests on the field, and just something to mention in collaboration with Signia. So
Thank you
very
so
good
much.
stuff there.
All right. Well, I know a lot of fans are always keen to know what the health of the roster looks like. So, Haley, you got a little update for us?
I do. We just got this sent a few minutes ago. So the big thing on there, Dak Prescott listed as full. Dalton Schultz, who we spoke about earlier, was a full participant today, as well as Quinton, Neville Gallimore, Devin Harper, Jason Peters. CeeDee Lamb, kind of the only asterisk there. He was limited today with a hip injury. Mike McCarthy did tell us earlier that Terrell Basham is pretty close to practicing. He should be back on Wednesday to open his 21-day window. And then Damone Clark looking pretty good as well. So we could see the return of him pretty soon. And I also want to mention, I love scrolling down on these. The Detroit Lions injury report is lengthy. So the ones that stand out to me right now, DJ Chark, who's been having issues with that ankle, he did not practice. DeAndre Swift was limited, and they've just got a slew. I think it's about 7 players who did not practice today. So something to keep an eye out on moving forward in the week.
Thank you, Haley. All right. Well, Mike McCarthy was asked about this 1-4 team that's coming to AT&T Stadium off of their bye week. Their only win this season, as I said earlier in the show, back on September 18th against the Washington Commanders, a 36-27 game. Real lopsided this year for the Detroit Lions. I expected more from Dan Campbell. I also think it's the HBO Hard Knocks curse that can tend to really bite these guys. But it's like they're sort of lacking the fight that you expected from Dan. And I don't know if you guys watched Hard Knocks, but you expected so much more. But still, Mike was asked, do you view this as a trap game? Because we're all sitting here going, and we'll get into some of the stats, this is a game the Cowboys should easily win. You've got Dak back, and you got a full complement of your receivers. You've got guys on defense that are playing great. But he said this is what he calls an uncommon opponent. In other words, they haven't played him since 2019, reference the fact there's only 6 holdovers from that team. And that's why it was so important to self-scout. I think it was interesting last year. We asked Ezekiel Elliott about self-scouting, which is so big for Mike McCarthy. He hands them their tapes. He wants them to say, what tells are you giving away? In other words, are you touching your hand towel at a certain time? Or do you touch your helmet at a certain time? Like, what are your tells that guys are seeing on tape? And he even said, because today's schedule was really weird. It was a Sunday night game. They got back late, right? But today was a walkthrough. We got Mike McCarthy at 3 versus 10:30. And he said that's because they wanted more time with the tape. The coaches wanted to be prepared on the front end. And so when we look at this opponent, we've already talked about some of their injuries. Aisha, what stands out? What could be a trap for them? What could trip Dallas up as we look to this Sunday game?
Okay, so I watched a couple games. It was a struggle having to watch Philly again willingly against the Lions. It hurt me. But I watched, obviously I watched the game last week with the Patriots because I was just like, they pitched a shutout, so I wanted to see what they did in particular. And it truly, I think it's Amon St. Brown. He is a very big part of what they do offensively in the passing game. And essentially, if you can take him away to some degree, it kind of falls apart. It kind of really falls apart. And then when you start looking at, what do you say his name's Chalk?
DJ Chalk.
DJ Chalk. Yeah, he is, like, he's intricate to what they do because he can make splash plays. But they really are a run-first team. So also, too, I mean, even though, like, we can sit up here and be like, yeah, this could be an easy game, this Lions offensive line, they will block. They will block. They do a lot of traps, counters, pulls. They're really trying to make your defense go one way and they go the other way. So this, I also do think, is still a test for the defense specifically to, hone in on the misdirection and also be going up against another formidable offensive line. Like, the Lions' offensive line is one of the better ones in the NFL.
Penei
So
Sewell.
absolutely, yeah. And Penei Sewell, like, he's been lights out coming in there. So I just want to see Dickerson. I just want to see how this defensive line fares. And then also, we've been talking about the run defense for the Cowboys for a while. I want to see how they play as well. So that maybe is a place to where I think they could make something happen, but depending on DeAndre Swift and seeing if he plays or not.
What's crazy is we go back, we talk about this defense for the Lions. In case people forgot, they took Penei Sewell over Micah Parsons.
Oh,
I don't want to.
Micah Parsons was sitting right there for Detroit. In fact, let me find
it's
out.
funny, actually, Jane. While you find that, I have a soundbite from Dan Campbell actually talking about that exact statement. So,
love
Jazzy,
that.
let's roll that
Okay.
Micah Parsons soundbite.
I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily surprised knowing the athlete that he is and was coming out. Now, it was a little bit exactly where do you use him, how do you use him per se, because there's he did have a skill set that's, well, do you put him on the edge and let him rush a little, or is he really a stack backer? Is he a stack backer that blitzes? He's certainly athletic enough to cover. I mean, so there's all these things. It's just honing in on what he does best. And I think Dallas has done, Dan Quinn and them have done a great job with how they've used him. So there again, he's a rare talent. He's got rare ability, and he's dynamic now off the edge. He can do multiple things, but you put him on the perimeter and let him go. That's where he really, really excels.
So you had Penei Sewell 7th overall, Micah Parsons fell to 12th, and you're like, well, we just didn't know what to do with him. He does so much.
Well, they asked Dan, are you surprised to see how Micah's been performing? And that's really what he said. And so, back to your point, too, of he was asked about strength on strength with the O-line and then facing the Cowboys defense. And he said that he wants to take advantage of the areas that have not been hit yet on the Cowboys defense. He wants to exploit them, and said that the Lions' goal will be to try and stay out of 3rd and 7+ down territory to stay in front of the sticks.
Yeah,
so
you got two
it starts
teams
with running the ball. That's what he said.
Both teams are bottom of the league in 3rd down efficiency. One thing about the Lions, that they, just like the Eagles last week, if it's 3rd and something, 4th and 1, they going for it. Mm-hmm. They are not scared.
Eagles were so aggressive.
They
in
are
that game.
not scared
and they
to go
kept
for
going
it.
at Micah Parsons. And I want to ask you that: do you ladies see, since I'm not saying they gave you the Broncos blueprint, right? But because they kept going after Micah Parsons, do you see other opposing offenses trying to do the same?
Yeah, they can try, but it doesn't mean they're going to be successful.
Right.
I mean, like, what Jalen Hurts does is very specific. What they do schematically is very specific. It's not easily replicated, but more importantly, I think that Micah is going to learn from it, and he probably ain't even going to give you a chance to even do that no more. He probably going to be like, you know what? That's because actually that's what the Lions did a lot in the game against the Eagles. They didn't give him the chance to have the option. They just completely closed on him, and that was the end of it. So we'll see. I think, like I said, I think the teach tape is good for Micah, but they did put him in weird situations that he has not been in yet. And he's going to have to learn from it.
And
well,
also,
and I was just going to say,
go ahead, sorry.
I just feel like Micah is the type of guy that got not embarrassed on national television, but remember, he's a Pennsylvania guy. Mm-hmm. And so the Penn fan base is huge going on the road. And he just strikes me as that type of guy, like, fool me once, he won't be fooled again. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what sort of stood out to me. And to your point, that offense is something else with the Eagles.
It's annoying.
I think you also have to factor in that Micah was not 100%. I mean, as much as he talked about, I'm being ready to go, you could just see it. There was certain plays where he wanted to tackle and he couldn't, accelerate after the fact to chase people down like what we've been so accustomed to seeing. And I think that kind of stuff is a learning experience for him as well. As these athletes, they want to push themselves. They want to be able to be in games because they're game changers, but if you're not 100%, then you're not a game changer. You're just another guy on the line, if that makes sense, which we know Micah is not another guy. I want to clear that up before my Twitter mentions get all blown up. Micah is that guy. So I think going into this week, maybe they're a little bit more reserved on his reps, or they're just monitoring that a little bit more. So he can have that bounce back, fool me once, fool me twice type mentality.
Yeah, and then to that point, I'm so glad you brought that up. I was just about to say that, but look at the pace the Eagles were playing at. I mean, there was no time for anybody to even rest. So I think Micah not playing at, full 100 like we're used to seeing, and then on top of that, the constant pace of being like this, it's only going to make them better.
All right. Do we have a past interference for us this week?
You know what? I'm going to save our past interference for tomorrow because it's going to be really good. I promise.
Okay. I love that. All right. Well, that's going to do it for Girls Talk.
That's a
Boys
tease.
Talk. I will be back here tomorrow. Haley, are you on the show tomorrow, or is it Kelsey Charles?
Depends on if Kelsey's here.
Gotcha. All right. Well, enjoyed this roundtable with you ladies. Keep in mind, if you've become a loyal follower of us, and we appreciate that, no pod on Friday, but we will really break down the Detroit Lions tomorrow, and excited to have team reporter Danny Rogers on there to help us do that. Until next time, we will see you on Thursday. And Jazz, thank you per usual.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!